So I'm Milan. I'm the department chair for the physical therapist assistant program here at Austin Community College. Prior to here at ACC, I worked at a clinic. So my background is in orthopedics. So I worked in an orthopedic clinic in Austin. The clinic where I was primarily dealt with patients that had spine conditions, but we did see additional diagnoses like shoulder and hip and knees, but primarily focused on spine pathologies or conditions. Before that, I worked for North Austin Medical Center. Spent a couple of years there in cardiac rehab, where I would work with patients that have had a recent cardiac event and were either out of surgery or just a few days out of the event. So that's my background in physical therapy. What's nice is that as a physical therapist assistant, you're able to take immediate care of the patient. So once the initial evaluation has been done by the physical therapist, then the physical therapist assistant can step right in and take over the treatment and kind of progress the patient from day one through their entire course, while they're in physical therapy. They, of course, will work very closely with the physical therapist, but it is you're on your own to kind of handle that patient's progress, to change the exercises as necessary, and then eventually, hopefully, getting to meet the goals that the PT has set, and then determine whether or not they have to continue or if they're ready for discharge. Now, that is primarily what the physical therapist assistant will do in a day. There certainly will be opportunities for smaller projects, depending on what the facility may need. So whether it is restructuring how the schedules are set for the patients, or perhaps it's implementing a new program for patients that have a particular condition. There are opportunities for other things besides just patient care. Have an associate's. So ours at ACC is an Associates of Applied Science and Physical Therapist Assistant. And once you have completed that degree, then you are eligible to take the licensing exam. And that's a national examination that is required for all 50 states. So the first part would be to have the associate's degree. And then once you have completed that, then you are eligible to take the licensing exam. And once you have successfully passed that exam, then you will receive the license for the state in which you applied. There are no additional requirements besides having completed the associate's degree and having successfully passed the licensure exam. So once you have a license, then you have the minimum requirement to practice physical therapy. There are additional certifications that you can, if you as part of this profession, you have to maintain a license. So every 2 years, you have to have a certain number of continuing education hours, and then you renew your license. So as part of that process, you are able to go in and secure other certifications if they are, of interest to you, or if they pertain to your particular setting. So there are various ones that several external groups can put together, like it's conferences or continuing education courses that you can attend and then secure additional certifications, but not required. We like to categorize them as we have what we call technical standards, and basically it doesn't involve several things. So for example, like observation skills are pretty important. So you get a lot of information from your patients based on what you've observed, whether it's facial expressions or just simply the way that they are moving. So to be able to observe either those performance of skills or just their observations of how patients are behaving or acting are really important. They do give us a lot of information. We often have to do skills that the patient has never done before, and so it's important that our students and physical therapist assistants are able to actually perform those skills. So there's a physical or a motor component to this, and that we like to say that you should never ask a patient to do something that you've not tried yourself. If you can do it, then you understand how difficult it may be for somebody else. So there is that component of it. We are a technical field that is driven by the science information, the research that is growing in this field. And so our students and the clinicians, the physical therapist assistants, have to be able to take this information and not only get through it, digest it, but then take that information, understanding what is important and relevant, and then applying it to patient care. So it is a very science-based field, which means a lot of reading of research articles, which are technical and things, the students have to be, and physical therapist assistants have to be able to get through those. So that would be another component. And I think finally, it's just communication skills, because we have to be able to not only talk to other healthcare providers like the physical therapist or the nurses or a referring physician, but also to the patient and their family members. And the way that you communicate to those two parties will be very different. So you have to be able to switch very easily from professional communication to something that would be more appropriate for patients and their families. And I think as part of that comes kind of problem solving, because one patient you may see two patients that have the exact same diagnosis, but the way that they will present will be very different. And so you may have had successful outcomes with this one patient and you're trying to do similar things with the other, and it's not quite working. So you have to be able to figure out what is different, why isn't this working this time around, and then problem solve that. And I think that's one of the very fun aspects of this particular profession, is that you get to do that quite a bit. There are two formal degrees in the field. So the Associates of Applied Science for a Physical Therapist Assistant, and then the Doctorate for the Physical Therapist. So I think that before either of those two, several people that are interested in either option would probably do something as called a PT Tech or a PT Aid. So there is no schooling necessary for this. It's simply on-the-job training, but what you do is you get to work with some patients a little bit more directly. Now, you can't do too many things independently, but you do get an idea of what goes on in a day at a physical therapy clinic. So that could be the first step. So you're working with the patients and the therapist or the therapist assistants in a clinic as a PT Tech or a PTA. Of course, if that's something that if you want to move past that, then you could go either towards the physical therapist assistant degree, or you could go towards the physical therapist degree. So one is not necessary before the other, so you can get these two independently of the other. If you go to the PTA, so you can get the associate's degree, then it'll be a 2-year educational track plus licensure, and then you can practice. Our students have the option of completing what's called the PT to PTA Bridge program, if they'd like. So it is a program that is offered by the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, and it is only open to physical therapist assistants, and not necessarily from ACC only, but just any PTA from anywhere. So the program is basically 2.5 years. There are some prerequisites, but the nice thing is that, one, it's only available to physical therapist assistants, and two, it does take into account some of the courses that somebody would do in the PTA program. So you don't really have to start from scratch, but you do still need your degree, because at the end it will be the doctorate that you will get. So, but it's nice because it's another option to get to that PT degree. If that's something that you're interested in through UTMB. But if you decide not to go the PTA route, then you would go towards a university. Excuse me. You would go to a university, get your bachelor degree, have some prerequisites completed, and then you start applying to PT schools, and then you can start the doctorate program. You are able to see your patients progress, and you're not in a particular field or a setting even where it's going to be like years before you're able to see any sort of progress. So I think that in most settings, at least in physical therapy, you're able to see progress, you're able to measure it, and And you really to see, because our field focuses very heavily on function. So in other words, what activities is the patient not able to do at home or at work or just in their own life because of what condition they have. So that really is how we measure our progress, is how close are we to getting them back to those things. And so because we look at it so heavy through the lens of function, then we really do start to see progress. And once the patient is able to return to their sport or to their, taking care of their family or going back to work, whatever it may be, it's really impactful to see how much progress somebody can make in a short amount of time. So I really do enjoy that. The challenges, I think I don't want to say it as a negative thing, because I think it's actually a positive of this field, but you do have to really know what you're doing very well, because again, what you may have done with one person may not work with the next, and then you've got to figure out, well, what was the difference here? Why is it not working now? How can I change what I am doing, and how can I get this ball rolling again? So that is a challenge, but I think that it's one of the fun aspects of the job.